Welcome to the Morico podcast, and today I have a special guest, Mr. Ty Weaver, Global Marketing Manager. Ty, hello.
Hello, Ken. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little about yourself and where you're working right now and what you're doing.
Sure. Right now, my current role, I'm the global head of marketing operations and digital for a price reporting agency named Argus Media. So we do pricing in the commodities and energy space.
Great.
Yeah.
So today I was thinking we'd talk a little bit about marketing for different budgets and some of the free tools that we both use, because we used to work together, so we've used some of these tools before. So some of them being like Buffer, Mailchimp, if this then that. So a lot of these free tools are freemium. They're more or less freemium tools, right? Because
right,
to get scale, they do offer premium services to pay for the free accounts. But basically, I think now with all this coronavirus stuff going around, budgets kind of getting chopped up. A lot of people are probably out of work too. Maybe they want to leverage some of these tools to kind of help their job search.
Sure.
So maybe we can talk about that and what you're seeing.
That's a good topic to talk about. And you and I have seen the other side of that too, where we've offered kind of a free trial freemium version in our previous life with our experience working together when we were at Insperity. So we can talk about both sides, the back end and the front end, and then some additional resources for finding some of those freemium tools, and then or tools that don't have that high cost or barrier to entry. And then, something that works well for folks when you need to scale up and then eventually move to enterprise and evolve into, bigger tools for as you grow your business.
So for me personally, I like Mailchimp on the email marketing side, just because they give you, I think, about 2,000. Like you can have about 2,000 people on your list for free.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I've also used it for probably about 5 years. When we were working together, we used a enterprise level marketing automation. I have a local alumni group that I work with quite a bit, and I was looking to kind of mimic that same model that we had at our jobs for this side project. That it's nothing that I'm going to make money at or anything like that, but I needed a central hub to manage a database and communicate with people effectively. And it was less than 1,000 people, but it was more than 500, and Mailchimp at the time hit that sweet spot. So yeah, it's a great tool to kind of manage any of those personal things, or if you're a blog and you want to keep people engaged and coming back, it's a great tool, entry level tool. And then of course they have the capabilities to scale up from there. They're getting a little bit more robust into the enterprise level marketing automation.
Right. And then it scales up with the automated emails and the APIs that they have integration. And you've set up some of those things. Can you talk about that? Whereas, if somebody starts out small and then you tack on like these automations that help you grow.
Sure. So the first thing to do is kind of maybe not try too much at once, right? Kind of get some platform or strategy where you can scale up and then build and have continuous improvement as you continue to grow your communication engagement with your audience. I think a lot of people take the approach of let's automate everything and have everything tied together in systems, but you really kind of need to take the approach and see if first what you put out there, is it going to resonate? Does it get you the behaviors and actions you're looking for? And then think about the technology stack once you've created a good positive problem for you or your organization. So that's kind of my approach, is let's put like a minimum viable product out there. Let's get the positive end behavior that we're looking for. And then once we do that, within that first 30 to 90 days, you want to collect some data so you can make right data and what your audience is telling you.
Okay. And then there's some other tools that integrate with a lot of other like social media tools and email clients and things like if this then that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, we currently use that. we have an RSS feed that we want to call in and then repost it to our social accounts. And, we're in a position that being a global business, it runs on a news cycle that's 24 hours. So, some of us have to sleep, right? And we need that tool to kind of fill in for the areas when, we can't be there. But our editorial staff is constantly putting stories out in the marketplace. So it's kind of a holdover for when our major office hubs aren't available to post news stories.
And there's a lot of competing products because you have like what Zapier,
Zapier or Zapier, Zapier. Yeah, it depends. I don't know. I've never spoken to a representative who works for the company and know the pronunciation of that product. But yeah, that's definitely another product. There's Deliver It too. That offers the same type of things. Obviously, you don't want to implement those tools for someone else's content. I do want to be cautious and say that if you're doing auto feeds and retweeting and stuff like that, make sure it's originating from a source that is you or from your organization. Really, I've seen a lot of kind of weird practices of people retweeting things. And, I've tried it first in my early days. And I was like, something just doesn't feel right about this.
Because you never know what's going to come out.
Right. And there's got to be some level of credibility and then some level of it being genuine too, that it's coming from your organization or from you personally as well. It's called social media for a reason.
Right. And can't really scale that.
It's not blast media.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you could talk about, as people start building up and they have larger budgets, they can move up to things like CRM and like Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce.
Before we go on to that, a couple of resources that, great for finding premium products or new products that hit the marketplace. A couple of sites to follow would be AppSumo. Subscribing to that, and they tend to partner with a lot of technology companies or marketing technology companies, and you can usually try out their tools, not for free, but at a discounted rate to really kind of take it for a test drive. And one of the tools that we use that actually came from a promotion from that company was called Lumen 5. Lumen 5 allows you to take a article, like a blog article or a news story that we have in our space, upload it to this platform, and then easily generate a video with highlighted text. And now you're creating video content in association with your regular text content, and then it gives you that extra medium or multimedia facet that looks nice in the feed and scales pretty easily. So like the post-production process is really easy and can get turned around quite quickly. And then the other one too that I follow quite a bit to find a lot of freemium products or just new products, just to be aware, is producthunt.com. A lot of technology companies, when they launch a new product, they put it out there. So a lot of the marketing technology tools come from those two sites. Those are kind of my secret sauce or go-to sites when I'm looking for something new, whether it's a freemium model or a very inexpensive piece of software that I can implement and get off the ground pretty quickly.
Cool. So a lot of these paid tools, if you're sort of just like an individual person right now, do you think you can get a lot of the same results as like these scaled up expensive tools just by putting in the hours, like the person hours?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can get probably 80 to 90% there, right? And it's, man hours is, your time is a commodity you don't ever get back, right? And so if it's willing to pay $100 to get you there, for example, I remember grappling with a scenario where we needed an RSS feed for a podcast, right? So either we invest in the dev work to develop our own RSS feed for the podcast, or do we look at a paid solution? Well, for our scenario where we didn't have a whole lot of development resources, that paid solution, ended up being the best option, right? So we went with a service called Podbean. It, did some research, just some Googling, and found that, with this, it'll create the RSS feed for you, and it tied into all of the major podcast platforms, right? So not only were we able to get our RSS feed, we were able to deploy to 7 different platforms. And, from trialing the product and going live with it, it was less than a week. So it's a scenario is if you have the man hours and you have the knowledge, or you have the time for both, building up your knowledge base and then, doing the trial and error and figuring out yourself. It's whatever your schedule and what suits your needs. But if there's a solution or tool out there that can save you a boatload of time, I would probably lean in the direction of finding that service. If it's reasonable, that it's an annual cost that doesn't break you. It'll probably save you a lot of time and headache in the future.
Yeah. There's tools I think out there like Anchor, and there's as far as at least for podcasting specifically, I notice there's some tools coming up now, because it used to be really hard to get a podcast feed going, for many years, and now it seems like with so many podcasts coming up that people are kind of responding, and building tools and an easier way for like regular people to kind of get a podcast out, because even now if you're using like WordPress, which is like the most popular website platform out there, it's not easy for a regular person to kind of set it up.
Yeah, and fortunately with something as flexible as WordPress, finding that right plugin may even be easier. My particular scenario, we use a proprietary content management system, and sometimes that scenario is a little bit different, where we're working with partners or agencies to do a lot of our development work, and you've just got to weigh the cost and see what is easiest to go to market with at, and still maintain a manageable budget, and it doesn't skyrocket and get, out of hand. So it's whatever your situation is, and your, to be honest, your marketing technology stack and what you're building your foundation on is the big factor in all of this. If you've got something that's, that doesn't integrate well, then if it needs to integrate, then that's probably the most important key. If it does not, and you don't need a report on it, or it doesn't need to tie into anything, then you've just got to weigh those options. A lot of the decisions, my approach is, one, does it fit in with our current marketing technology stack? How difficult is it going to be to deploy and implement? And then next is the implementation process, the training of the people who will be using the application. And then lastly, the hope is building the internal knowledge base and documenting your processes. So as people move on and up in the organization, you've got a good set of documentation for the next person to come in and hit the ground running and have some foundation and guidelines of, how to do things the way your organization has established.
And I think one of the things that we found working with product software is replacing salespeople, right? But it was at certain product cost levels, right? Expensive products, you couldn't just do a sort of a sales automation or funnels. It just didn't work as well as, talking to a person. There was a certain price point where automation was fine. People were okay with giving out a credit card as long as it was like under, I don't know, say $500 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, looking at, one is, do you have the ability to service those types of clients? And in this scenario, when we were working at Insperity, we had an e-commerce platform that tied into our ERP that also tied into our products and our marketing automation platform. So everything was pretty heavily integrated. And then what really got interesting is when we first, made that transition from desktop software applications to SaaS applications. We were kind of at the forefront. We were the first division of our company to make that transition, to go fully in on SaaS, and then kind of spearhead Suite Commerce at the time, and we were on NetSuite. So I think we were like the sixth company to implement Suite Commerce. It was kind of exciting. Number six, wow. Yeah. So, we certainly got a lot of road rash in that experience, being the sixth company to ever implement that product, and then kind of going along the lines. But I think, it kind of comes back to that, launching it, we started with, having our salespeople talk to every individual that showed interest. But once we had an e-commerce platform, and then we could do, look at some more data. And eventually, I think what we did too was buying personas and then looking at the type of individuals that buy a single license versus a multi-license. And was there any commonality that we could see in the data that would differentiate somebody who's probably potentially only going to buy one license of the product versus somebody who needs 20, 30, 40 licenses? Those types of scenarios have two totally different sales processes, right? One is very low touch, low transaction, high volume, and the other one is very much high touch, high costs, on a sales side. But in the end result, it's going to yield a lot more dividend when you close the deal. So I think it was those data points that we were kind of looking at, and it was also when we implemented a firmographic engine where we, could append data as it was coming in. We could see companies and their employee size, which gave us that extra layer of data to say, okay, reroute these individuals to purchase their e-commerce solution. These companies are meeting the right profiles. They have the firmographic, and there's opportunity here that they should be talking to a sales rep, because they're going to need a lot of hand-holding. They're going to need to consider the types of different licenses that they need in their functional uses of those licenses. So having those data points ahead of time really can decide which path you put your users on in their purchasing experience.
Cool. So right now you're doing global marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak a little bit about what's different about when you're marketing globally and how these tools, can help you, or does it not even matter when you're?
It matters a lot less now than it has, especially now that we're in a situation where everyone's working remotely. Collaboration tools have done a number of wonders and global organizations stay connected and to get on the same page. Some of the challenges, working with people that are in a different time zone that's way ahead of you. For example, if it's a 12, 13-hour time zone difference, somebody staying up late or getting up early, there's just, if you need that face-to-face interaction where you have a video call with somebody, you're going to be stuck in those scenarios. But at the same time, the key to work globally is have a long format strategy, like a product roadmap for everything you're doing, whether it's web development, marketing automation, content development. Start way in advance and give yourself plenty of runway, and then those processes are a lot easier. The other thing too then is looking at your technology and your tools and segmenting that data in a way that you can deliver different messages for different marketplaces, but you're piggybacking on the same campaign. So rather than creating multiple assets in a marketing automation platform where you've got to have an email that's separate for each different region, start looking at it of setting up your database that's segmented appropriately, that you run one campaign, but you're serving up just slightly different content to those different regions. And then what that does is allow you to run one campaign. It gives you consistent metrics, and then reporting and analysis becomes a lot easier.
Right, and that's really important, sort of simplifying the analytics part of it, right? Because if you have so many different, key metrics and data points, it's just everything gets kind of blurry and
right.
Decisions, right?
Right. Remember our product manager? He's like, yeah, this is great, but at some point you're going to have paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
That was his favorite saying, paralysis by analysis. Well, I'm pretty much paralyzed by the amount of analysis that we have to do kind of on a daily, weekly basis. And it's managing the expectations, right? If you're pulling data, it's got to be actionable data. Don't pull it for just the sake of pulling it. And having those tough conversations with your colleagues and individuals and your key stakeholders of what's an important metric that you can make an intelligent business decision off of versus something that could be just simply a vanity metric. You can really go down a rabbit hole by the number of requests and data, because you can pretty much with these platforms, anything that's cookied, right? You can report on anything under the sun of every behavior that's imaginable for that person, and then across different channels too as well.
So with all this coronavirus going around, do you see anything changing marketing wise, or do you feel like everything has kind of been set up and established already as far as the technology, and really nothing's different?
I would say probably the latter, right? I feel like especially in digital marketing and marketing operations, we were very well prepared because we invested in tools that allows you to work wherever, right? So a lot of these,
and the computer never turns off.
The computer never turns off. They're always available. And if the computer crashes, hey, what?
Right.
Guess what? You're working in a SaaS application. You just get a new computer and you start where you left off.
Right. And we actually used to joke with the salespeople at our company that, the computers would, sometimes outperform them, or, just never went to bed, And,
yeah, the e-commerce, it doesn't take a nap.
It doesn't take a nap.
It doesn't have to take a lunch break. Yeah.
Never gives you attitude.
Never gives you attitude. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what you're going to get too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So Ty, how can people reach you?
Yeah, my favorite social media platform is LinkedIn. Obviously everyone's got a multitude of applications and their preference for social media. So LinkedIn's by far my best presence, and then personal website that it's more or less like a portfolio website. So tyweaver.me. If you want to check that out, and I've got some ideas of where we go in the future, some different website ideas, and maybe I could utilize your help again down the road for the next episode.
I'm available. Here we go. So, all right, Ty. Well, thanks for stopping by, and we'll chat again.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Ken.